Hello and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial with me, Groover. Now today all that I'm really going to talk about is Minecraft iron farming logic type stuff. So as you can see, I've got a few things laid out behind me for us to have a look at, and that's just going to go over sort of various points so that hopefully by the end of this video you'll be able to make your own iron farms without any problem really. And well, basically the first question is, what do you need for an iron farm? There we go. So what you need is 10 villagers and 21 doors and some spaces for the golems to spawn on. Now the doors need to be valid, and basically that's sort of the start of an iron farm. After that, all that you really need to do is to be able to get the golem out of the area and various things, and that's most of what the iron farm deals with, is getting the village centre organised, getting the doors valid, and just that kind of stuff really. So let's move on to the first thing that we need to think about, and that's making sure that the doors are valid, because if the doors aren't valid, and this is the most common mistake, if the doors aren't valid then you're not going to get any iron. So let's go and have a look at that. So right here we have a selection of doors, and what I've got marked out is sort of little counters in the front of them and behind them. I want to say in front and behind, it's to do with the direction that they're facing in. So if I just grab a door, anything in front of this door and behind this door is in this direction because I placed it down in that direction there. And same this way, it would then be this way. Okay? So we've got this one's got all the in front and behind over there. And basically the door itself will register light levels within 5 blocks of it on both sides. And if the light on one side of the door, actual light in terms of skylight, it has to be skylight. If the light on one side of the door is higher than on the other side of the door becomes valid. It assumes that this is a dwelling on one side of the door. So if I place a block right there, it's going to get that light block to that door from there, and then that becomes valid. Pretty simple stuff really. And it can go there, it can go there, it can go up at this level. And just as this is going to demonstrate, it can basically go any level above the floor level of the door. So you can place one at the very bottom there, right at the same level as the bottom of the door, going all the way up to sky limit. And if I took out all but one of these, any one of these, then this door would still be valid. It'd still be a valid door. Okay? Pretty simple stuff. You also need a villager in the area within 16 blocks, but we'll talk about that next, to register the door. So the villager registers the door if it's valid, and once it's registered it becomes part of a village. Okay, now a quick look at this one. This is a valid door. This is also a valid door. The only difference is that this door is open. So it's worth sort of being aware of that, whether the door's open or closed and what position it's in, because that can change how you're going to make the door valid. Usually if you're making an iron farm, you're going around, you're placing the doors like this, and you know exactly what direction things are going in, so you can just whack down the blocks like that and you know that this is valid. But if you're not sure, you can press F3 and you can see on the bottom right hand corner there it says open true and then open false. Open true, open false. So yeah, worth being aware of that. Right, next up is having a look at the distances that the villager can actually detect doors. Right, here I've got a little 32 by 32 area set up with a door in the furthest corner here. And I've put these extra blocks around the outside. These are on the 34th block out. And these just actually make sure that the door's made valid. Not much more, so I could actually place a door anywhere along this outside edge and it would be registered by the villager over there and made valid by these blocks around the outside. Now the villager can detect in a 16 by 16 area, and it always detects that from the northwest corner of the block that it stood on. So that would be this corner, because I've got my north pole up there and I know it's west over there, therefore it's registering from that block there. So it's going to count 16 blocks in that direction, 16 blocks in that direction, and then 16 blocks in that direction, and 16 blocks in that direction, all from that point. So if we go up here, you'll see that the villager itself is just ever so slightly off centre in the southwest direction, just by 1 block in each direction. And that'll just be how it works. The villager can always detect the blocks in the 16 blocks in any direction from the northwest corner. Now these little pillars here actually mark out the outside borders of where the golems can spawn. So everything being equal, the doors placed equally around the outside. If I placed 4 more doors in exactly the same relevant positions, or even 8 more doors, whatever, it's always going to be set up like this. As long as things are equal, this is how it's going to look. If you take a door away, then the village centre is going to get pulled over there, because the village centre is usually the average of the position of all of the doors. However, it isn't quite so straightforward, but we'll move on to that in a moment. So this is where the golem area spawning area would be. So this is actually from the northwest corner of the block that the villager is stood on. It's counting 8 blocks out in each direction. So it's basically exactly the same as the area that the villager can register the doors in. Okay? So that makes sense. Now the problem is that only makes sense in the northwest corner of the world. So if I go to the centre here, and this is 0, 0, right here is 0, 0. Now over there, it's negative, negative. So negative x, negative z. And that's where it all works exactly as expected. Now if I go over to here, which is positive, positive, the actual spawning area is off by 1. So the carpet represents what it would be in the northwest corner, which is kind of what we expect it to be. And the pillars represent what it is in the relevant section of the world. So the villager is actually counting doors from this point, but the village centre starts at that point. Okay, so it's off by 1 in each direction in the northwesterly direction. If I go over here, it's off by 1 in the westerly direction because it's already in the northern quadrant of the world. This is set up exactly the same each time. So I've got the little carpet markers showing where it would be in the northwest section, and the pillars showing where it is in that relevant section of the world. So it gives you a bit of an idea that it can be a little bit funky. And I suppose that's just a bit of Minecraft logic right there. So this one's in the southwest corner, so it's just going a little bit further north. So it's counting the doors from right. No, it's not counting doors. It's counting the area the golem can spawn in from right there. Okay? So why is this important? It isn't deeply important. It's not going to make a huge difference. But if you're building a 16 by 16 platform for the golems to spawn in, and you're building it in the southeast corner of the world, you're actually going to lose 2 sides here. It's not a huge amount, but each platform you're going to lose 32 blocks on, which is going to impact the efficiency. And, you know, it's going to just knock down that iron count. So personally, if I was building a straightforward platformed farm in the southeast corner or any corner of the world, unless I knew I was in the northwest corner, I'd make it an 18 by 18, and then it'll just give you that little bit of extra playroom, because it's really difficult to actually organise the doors to actually bring the village centre back in. You're better off just going for equally spaced doors and giving yourself a bit of extra space around the edges on your platforms. It is a little bit more work, it's a little bit more fiddly, but I think it's worthwhile. It's a very small trade-off to make sure that you're getting better efficiency. Right, so that's how the villagers register doors on the horizontal axis. So we need to go and have a look at how they register doors on a vertical axis now. So we're just going to pop over here. And what I've got here is I've got a villager set up at a specified height, just to sort of show the entire range of its registering, I guess. Now, it can actually register a door that's placed on a block 1 above its head. So if we have a look here, all of the green blocks behind it there are actually valid doors, all of the red blocks not valid doors. And then this meter stick sort of shows you how it's measured out right next to the villager. So you can place a door on top of this yellow block and it would be registered by the villager, and you can place a door all the way down here on top of this yellow block, and it would be registered by the villager. Now this yellow block is 2, 4, 6 below its feet, and this yellow block is 1 above its head. Anything on the same level as the villager, no problem at all. And that's just a little bit of a visual illustration of, you know, the vertical axis that it can work on for registering doors. Right, this is a very simple golem farm, and basically I just built this to demonstrate the area in which the golems can spawn. And I built it out of redstone because it's got special properties, and we'll have a quick talk about that in a moment. But basically the spawning area is a 16 by 16 by 6 area, and if you place the doors at this level, this is exactly how it would come out. And I've placed the doors equally. I've got 24 doors on this one, and then right in the middle here I've got 10 villagers or something down there just to register all the doors, because I'm not really worried about the efficiency. I just wanted some villagers to register all of the doors in one place, and then it will produce golems within this redstone blocked area. Now the interesting thing is with redstone blocks is that the golems can actually spawn on top of it and inside of it at the same time. So if a golem spawns inside that block, it'll start suffocating. There's not many blocks that the golems can spawn inside and on top of, and redstone is one of them. They can spawn inside of most transparent blocks, they can spawn inside water, and they can spawn inside and on top of slabs, upper half slabs. They can spawn inside of lower half slabs, but not on top of them. So inside and on top of slabs, inside and on top of redstone, and inside transparent blocks and water. So when I say inside and on top of, I kind of mean on the top of each of these blocks. It's probably kind of clear, but I sort of feel like I need to make that clear just in case. So this is exactly what the spawning area looks like, and usually what you'll find is designs which have 2 spawning platforms at these levels, just like that. Most of the designs which I come up with sort of tend to use the redstone block mechanic just for fun, or the half slab mechanic, because that actually increases the number of spawning areas that you can get within the spawnable area. This is the standard sort of design where you have 2 platforms, and the golems spawn on top of the platforms and the water flushes them to the middle and they get dropped down and out of the way. So yeah, that is the golem spawnable area. Right, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is the circumference of the village. I suppose that's one way of putting it. There's probably lots of ways of phrasing it, but what I mean by circumference of the village is the distance at which from the centre of the village doors will be registered to that village. Okay? So if you have a village in the centre like I do over there, you can just about see it. Basically it's one valid door, one villager, and there you go, that's your village. If I place a door at the same level as any of this glass or within that glass, then it's going to be registered to that village, and it's going to move the village centre over. Okay, now this is sort of the thing where you want to build other iron farms in the area, or you've got a villager or another village nearby or whatever. If you're going to make a villager breeder, then you want to make sure it's outside of the 65 block area, all that kind of thing. However, as I say, if I place a door down right there and I make it valid with a solid block on the outside, and well, I won't put a villager there, but basically if you assume there's a villager there to register it, then it would actually become a new village, and that would have its own 65 block circumference. And it's done in a sphere. This is only a half sphere because I'm quite low in the world, but it should go all the way down below as well and all the way above. So this 65 block spherical radius is the closest to which you can put another farm or another village to the first farm, really. Now I hope that makes sense, because that's going to help us a little bit with the next section, which is going to be talking about how things like the Iron Titan work. So let's go have a little look at that now. Okay, so what I have here is a sort of half of how the Iron Titan is set up, and there's another stage to it, but I'll talk about that in a few moments at the relevant point. But basically what you have is a village. Bang. There is a village, which is one door, which is valid, which I've made valid with these granite blocks, and I've got a villager to register that door. Okay, and we know where the village centre is because we've talked about that. The village centre is going to be off in the northwest corner over here, and then it's 16 blocks in all directions, and it will register new doors within 64 blocks. Within 64 blocks, it will register a new door to this village, and it will move the village centre in that direction. All of this we know about. So how the Iron Titan works is you've got a village right here, and I'm just going to place a door here, which is also valid because of this villager and because of this granite block, and that moves the centre of this village back here, all the way back here. And that means that I can then go around about 64 blocks away, place down a new door which is valid because of the villager, because of the granite, and now I've got two villages. I've got one here and I've got one all the way up there at the other end of this run. And then I come down here and place a door in the middle, which is almost halfway between the two, but it's actually just a fraction closer to this one, which means that the village centre is now somewhere here, right in the middle. And that actually means that you've got two villages within 65 blocks of each other. So all that we're really doing is we're going to manipulate the village centre all the way up to be right next to the other village centre. If you're really clever about this, you can actually make the village centres sit on top of each other. So I'm not that clever yet. I'm going to have a look at it, but it's not straightforward. You've got to lift it up, drop it down, move it around. A lot of work. But anyway, I've placed the second door down. If I take away the first door, bang, now the village centre is right here on this door, on the northwest corner of the block that it stood on. Right? Next, I go down here, which is 16 blocks away from this one, which is ever so slightly closer to this door than it is to that door, or to the village centre over there, I should say. So it means that it links up with this village centre and brings it over here. And then I go back over here, take away this door, the village centre's right here, and then I go ahead, place one here, and basically you're getting it closer by half-lives. So the first gap was 32, the next gap is 16, the next gap is 8, then 4, then 2, then 1, and then one more to get it right in next to the village. So let's take that away. And one thing to bear in mind if you are doing this is you need to give yourself a few seconds between placing and breaking doors, because it takes a few seconds for the villager to register new doors within its area. So if I take that away, usually about 6 seconds, and then I can take one there, give it a little bit of time, take that away, creep it a little bit closer, and every time the village centre is getting closer and closer to the other village centre. Finally, we place one in there. I'm going to give it a second or two to be registered, and then take that door out and take that door out. And now what we have is a village centre right here and a village centre right here. Two villages right next to each other, which means that if you build out these doors, then you can actually, well, if you build them out to have 21 doors in each village, then you can actually have several villages right next to each other without any problem at all. Pretty simple, really. Just kind of fun, manipulating village centres into each other almost. In fact, there's going to be a large overlap here with the two villages, huge overlap. Once you've got your doors down here like this, I think with Tango Tech's Iron Titan thingy has 32 to a layer, so you do this 32 times, going all the way across, and you have the villager in the centre in a very specific position to register all of the doors and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of fun. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll build up one more village into this area, and we'll get that on a time lapse. Oops, no, before I do the time lapse I need to pull this village centre back a bit. So I place the door right there, and that pulls the village centre of this one back to here, and not that one, because this one is closer to that directly, and this one is going to be just out of range of the next one that I pull down. So let's go do that. Right, so there we go. That is 3 villages right next to each other now. Usually the next stage for this is actually just to tweeze out the doors that are actually within the village, and you do that by placing down doors here and then the same on the other side here. I won't go into this, but basically you just sort of add in doors to the outside and just pulling out the distance that the doors are until you've got 11 doors out of range over there. When I say out of range, I mean beyond where you're going to have your spawning pads, and another 11 doors over in that direction as well. Oh yeah, one other thing guys, if you wanted to actually check where your villages are in the world, you can have a look at the NBT data. I won't go into how you look at that, but you need a program and it's in a specific file in your Minecraft folders and all that kind of thing. But that actually has the information on where the villages are, how many villagers there are, and doors and centres and all that kind of thing. So you can actually go look at that and check. You can use that as you're putting in your villages with these kinds of things and make sure that the villages are actually there and not just one big village, which is the worst case scenario. But I know that I've done this right, so I know that there's going to be 3 villages right here. And if I went to check the MBT data, that should confirm it. Right, another thing which you tend to need with builds like your Iron Titan is the spawn chunks and some sort of chunk loading stuff going on. Now, the best way to explain this is actually to use something which I saw done by Panda4994. If you're not watching his stuff, you really should. It's extremely good. And his explanation was that in the spawn chunks, when you're not in the spawn chunks, redstone can be processed. And things can happen through that. So maybe I should go ahead and explain this a bit better. So if I switch this on, this is just going to be a command block which says redstone. Okay? And if I switch this on, this is just a thing. Where's my redstone? I need some redstone. There we go. This is just like a little contraption which is going to show you that entities are being processed. So you can see down in my chat it says redstone entity. And basically what I've got is the 2 things, and if I go through the portal, you'll see that they both keep processing even though I'm not in the area. Now the problem is that the entities will stop processing after 10 seconds. So any second now it should just switch to redstone. So there you go. Now when the entities aren't processing, then that means that the villagers aren't remembering the villages which are in that area. And if they stop remembering the villages in that area, then you're just going to get all of your villages merge in one go. Now the best way to deal with that is if I just go here, throw something through, as soon as it gets to the other side, you see that I get entities coming back up again. So if I actually have something to go through that portal every 10 seconds, it should keep it all loaded continuously. And it should then mean that all of those villages are remembered and it's all good. You get all of the iron, you don't get problems with your villages merging. So if we go on to the other side here, I have this little contraption set up. Pick up those bits and pieces again. Now that I'm back in the area, that's going to carry on processing indefinitely because I'm sort of keeping this loaded up properly. If I switch this on, this should give us a item pushed through the portal around about once every 8 seconds, I think. Maybe a bit faster. It doesn't matter hugely for demonstration purposes, but you'll get the gist. So if I come back through to this side, get a little bit of lag spike there. Sorry about that, guys. Very laggy. Just whilst the world loads in. Right, that's a bit better, I think. Right, so now that I'm here, the redstone and the entity are running. I've got the items being pushed through the portal. I know that the entities are still being processed continuously. I'm getting a pile of items over here. You know, in an ideal world, you'd have basically a bucket of lava here, and it would be in an area where people pass by kind of often. So that this gets loaded in and these items get killed, because you don't want to end up with thousands of items just kicking around in the nether, because it'll make it lag like heck. But yeah, you see that? It's still going. So all the time that I'm over here with that pushing stuff through the portal, the entities are processing, the villagers are safe. As soon as it stops, they're going to collapse. So that's basically why you need the chunk loading and the spawn chunks. Because, no, did I explain that properly? No, the spawn chunks thing is a lot to do with the fact that redstone can still run even though you're not in the area. So if I switch these off and I leave the redstone one running, so if I call this redstone 1 and say done, and that's going to come up with redstone 1, and then if I go over, let's see, if I go 1,000 blocks out of the way, if I teleport myself, let's see, if I do it like this, 1,000, wherever I am. So this is way out of the way. I might never find my way back there, but we're towards the end of this tutorial, but so it's fine. So set block. Right, sorry about that, guys. Bit of technical problems. Switched off my computer for some reason, but there you go. I came back on and I've got this set up, and this is just exactly the same as what I had over in the spawn chunks, and this one is just going to say redstone 2. Okay, and as you can see, I'm miles away from the spawn chunks and the redstone 1 is still working. So if I just hook this up with a final piece of redstone, there we go, we've got redstone 1 and 2. Now if I teleport myself back, TP, let's hope that this puts me in about the right place. 1,000, where I am, and me. No, got that the wrong way around. So if I teleport back to where I was, there we go, and after a short while I should just get redstone 1, because the other one has completely unloaded and therefore it's not going to do anything. So if you build this outside the spawn chunks, then the redstone in this area would stop working as soon as you leave the area, which is no good. You need this to be pushing things through continuously. So let's just go back there and just show this back in one more in that way again. Got no idea where it is. There it is, but it's doing both of them now, 1 and 2. If I head back, after about 10 seconds that will just stop. Okay, so I hope that makes it clear as to why you need the spawn chunks and why you're doing the spawn loading, or the chunk loading, with the entities. Right, the final thing that I'm going to talk about is the efficiency of a farm. Now the efficiency depends on the number of spawning spots that the golems have within the golem spawning area. So most of the designs that you see are set up a little bit like this, with the water pushing the golems to the middle, and then they fall down through the middle into the lava. Now these ones are pretty efficient in sort of definitely one way, not so much in another. Now the way that they're efficient is that you've got quite a lot of spawning spaces. So you've got two 16 by 16 platforms, and when the golem actually tries to spawn, it'll try and find a space within the golem spawning area 10 times. And the golem spawning area is the 16 by 16 by 6, which we can see pretty much over there. And it'll try in that space 10 times, and if it fails in those 10 times, you don't get a golem. So obviously the more spaces that you fill, the better. But because of the calculation and the way it works, it means that if you've got something like this with two platforms which are 16 by 16, then you're going to be around about 98% efficient. So you're going to get a high efficiency from something like this. Something like this is 100% efficient. Every time it tries to spawn, it will always find a spot because it can always spawn on top of the redstone and inside the redstone. And yeah, it's not going to have any problems spawning on that at all. Every single time, first time, it's going to go, yeah, found something, done. The problem with this design is the time it takes for the golem to suffocate inside there. And that's why you need extra villagers. So you need at least 20 villagers for something like this, so that whilst one golem's suffocating, it can still count towards a second one, because each farm or each village can sustain one golem per 10 villagers. Okay, so I've got 20 villagers in there. If one golem spawns in whilst it's dying, it's still counting up again towards getting another golem. In this particular design, you get them over to the centre and then drop them out of the way. Once they're in the centre here, and they are 3 blocks below the golem spawning area, then they're outside the village, and the village can actually start thinking about spawning in a whole new golem. So once they've dropped down to this level here, they're outside of it, and it's ready to go again. So that's reasonably efficient. The problem with this kind of thing is the time it takes for the golem to, say for example, it spawns in right over here, and it's going to very slowly moonwalk its way into the middle, and then it's going to dance around here for a bit, and then it might fall down. And this is where you lose the efficiency with these designs, is that it takes a long time to get the golem out of the golem spawning area. Again, you can deal with that with adding extra villagers or extra villagers into the area, so that once the golem's in there, it's still counting ready for the next golem. But yeah, that's sort of a little bit about how the efficiency works. One design which I've seen a few times is the 10x10 design. Now the 10x10 design is around about 75% efficient, so you're going to lose approximately 1 in every 4 golems to that design, which isn't great. It's very simple and very efficient, but personally I'd say every time go for at least a 16x16 area. Now I've got a couple of designs out there which actually make use of various mechanics and things and just sort of push up the efficiency. They're a lot more work, to be honest. A lot more work than something like this. But I think they're kind of fun. I think they're worthwhile. Right, so there you go. That's the efficiency factor. So I've just got one more thing to tell you guys, and then we're going to wrap up this tutorial. And that is just about the spawning rates. Now, every single village in an iron farm, like the Titan, which has got dozens of villages, or just like a single village like this, will try and produce a golem approximately once every 7,000 game ticks, which is around about once every 6 minutes or 5 minutes 50 seconds. So that gives you an idea of how often it's going to try. The more efficient it is, the more likely it's going to hit that mark and, you know, get some good numbers. Now, each golem can produce between 3 and 5 pieces of iron. Now I think I've even seen them do 2, but you know, I don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure the wiki says 3 to 5. So you normally say that each golem will give an average of 4 pieces of iron. So in an hour, a reasonable iron farm that's producing well should produce around about 40 ingots. A very, very efficient iron farm like this one, like each village, if it's very, very efficient, should produce 41. So we're not talking big differences when you sort of push up the efficiencies. If you're going down the sort of line of the 10x10 farm, then the efficiency is going to be down to around about 30 ingots an hour, because you're losing around about 2.5 golems every hour. Okay, so that just gives you a little bit of an idea of how much you should expect to see from these things. You'll have good hours and you'll have bad hours. I've run extremely long tests, sort of hours and hours and hours, and I've averaged it out. And it's averaged out about right. It's averaged out mathematically what I'd expect from that farm. So like this one, or a similar one which I ran, which is 100% efficient, produced around about 41 ingots an hour and just a bit over 10 golems. So yeah, basically you will have good hours and you will have bad hours. Right, and there we go guys. I think I've covered basically everything. If you think I've forgotten anything, leave me a comment and I'll try and clear it up. I'll try and answer any questions. Now, if you found this useful, please do leave me a like. It gives me a good idea of whether this has been a good thing to do or not, and whether it's worth doing more of it. I always find iron farming interesting. I think if you know the logic, you can actually build something that's going to suit your own purpose and is going to have the level of efficiency that you want and all that kind of thing. Oh, actually, one final tip is iron doors don't count. You can have as many iron doors in the area as you like. It's not going to count towards any village. It's not going to skew your village at all. Sorry, top tip at the end there. Hope you're watching all the way to this point. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do leave a like. If you've got any questions, leave me a comment. And I hope to see you again next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.